Anytime you start on a Monday, there's plenty of reasons to be optimistic.
Oh?
Don't you think? It's always
yes.
a fresh start to a fresh
Oh,
week.
yes.
Do you see where I'm going with this on our latest edition of Real Kyper and Bourne, Leaf Edition?
Yes, I do.
Welcome aboard. I'm Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, and Jen Rolnick in for the next 2 hours. No Jen Rolnick? I was just upstairs.
And the week's ruined.
I already
Jake,
blew
you're
it.
great.
I'm not as optimistic now.
No.
Jake, the Snake Schultz, even though I saw Jen Rolnick upstairs.
So she sets everything up for our show, and then Jake comes in and he does the actual show. So she's here until 4 o'clock, and then Jake subs in for our show and fan drive time.
That's how the sausage is made.
Isn't
There
that
you go.
something I should have been told, like, in September?
Well, Kipper, when you put the name on the lineup of the proper guy that's right in front of you, you know?
You did overrule the lineup for once, and it didn't work.
Fair point.
Thank you.
Can I say we're live on Sportsnet 590 The Fan?
We are.
Sportsnet 360?
Yes.
Sportsnet Plus?
Those are all correct things.
Accurate.
Accurate.
Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's get this thing going again.
Okay.
I went to the game Saturday night.
Cool.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. The lamb chops were delicious in the alumni box.
Lamb chops? You do like a mint jelly or
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
More of a, I think a garlic sauce.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
But
Love lamb.
outside of that, I think a lot of disappointed Leaf fans for the second time. A key divisional game.
Mhm.
First one against Florida, obviously, but the second one goes against a team that is inching ever so closer to you in the standings. So
Yes.
I want to start with you, because if I start with the other guy on our show, then I'm really nervous on that.
Well, I think good hockey game. You know, like it was good energy, good pace. I thought it was fun. They didn't win. I don't know if
Yeah.
you noticed that part.
Yeah,
That part
I
was
did.
a bummer. Yeah, you know, I'm going to try to keep things positive today, not for the sake of keeping it positive, but because I do feel like some of the narrative is swinging towards this Leafs team suck, and they don't. You know, they have lost some games to some very good teams in this stretch. We know it's 7 games since they've won in regulation. Vegas, Colorado, Florida, some of the best teams in the league there. Hot Ottawa team. They haven't lost a game by 2 goals, not counting empty netters. So they've been in every game, and I still feel like the bones of some positivity are here. So I'm not as panicked today as some people, but I think it's clear that something needs to change, right? They're not getting over the hump against these good opponents, and you're going to have to beat good teams in the playoffs. So that would be the greater concern. They're not suddenly bad, but boy, they got to find something better.
Go ahead, Sammy.
Well, yeah, I think there's something to that you look at the team and there's similar players on the team to when they've played well, and, you know, there's reasons for them to pull out of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I would argue that this has been the worst stretch of hockey in the Matthews and Marner era since Babcock got fired. Like, before that Babcock got fired, that stretch, they were really, I couldn't tell you exactly how many they'd lost in a row or what the stretch was, but I really can't remember them losing 6 of 7 at any point over this era. Like, they really haven't gone into these long slides. It's actually been a bit of a calling card of this group that they haven't really had long losing streaks. And I just think it's a very uninspired hockey team right now that generally people don't enjoy watching, boys. Like, that's a common thing that I'm getting. Like, I get a ton of messages from fans and DMs and texts. And a lot of it is, it just sucks to watch right now.
According to my math, they give up 1 fewer chance per game than last year, and they create 2 fewer chances for themselves, which means there's 3 fewer chances per game total. 2 of them, that would be the Leafs. So that's concerning.
All right. I want to pick up right off of that. Let's just go to Craig Berube on his thoughts Saturday night, and we'll follow it up with your comment on lack of opportunities compared to last season.
Okay.
I thought, I'd use the word urgency, some detail stuff. I thought that their 3 goals were all about losing battles inside the blue line. We didn't get enough put enough battles there in that area of the game. And, it's urgency for me and details in the first two periods that weren't there. But when we decide to have urgency and do things the right way, we're a way better team in the third. But you're behind, and sometimes you don't come back. We had chances, but that's what happens.
All right.
Once again, they get a lead, right? Seemed like good energy, especially after Willie Nylander's
What a goal.
pretty darn great individual effort.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And, a couple of new guys helped out there. Lawton went to the net. Carlo had snuck down back door, created some space for Willie. That was a very positive moment.
And it's nice for the coach when your idea of putting a scorer on the third line goes up against some lesser competition and he ends up putting one in the net.
Yeah,
All is looking very well from the start of the game.
it was.
Then what?
Just some bad mistakes, some bad decisions for me.
Yeah,
Just-
you were saying, though, with the chances for that
Yeah.
you don't feel like they're...
Well, yeah, to me, at times, I know, to Sammy's point, that they get accused of boring hockey or just uninspired hockey, and I'm just wondering now, are we down to looking at Craig Berube and saying, okay, something needs to change systematically with this hockey club, because whatever we thought was working in November is no longer working anymore. And the one thing that I'll remain consistent on is that the gap between the defense and the forwards, to me, remains like huge. Like, there are times when I watched Carlo behind the net and everybody's out of the zone. Like, and it gets to the point where if he's challenged at all, like, wingers have to come back into the zone to help. Like, they're not even in a support position just in case if he falls down, if he blows an edge, there's nobody around. The constant stretch passing and then the turnover in the neutral zone only to come back in your own zone is a constant, like, thing that I see almost every other shift now.
Yeah, it's funny because they're like banking on this idea that in playoffs, the possession hockey they played of old didn't work. So in playoffs, they're going to go north. They're going to chip it off the boards. They're going to chip it in. They're going to go get it because, again, they hadn't had success the other way. But we used to say last year when they would go down in a game that they were never out of it, right? They were down 5-0 to Columbus and went to overtime at one point last year. They had this unbelievable ability to come back in games.
Scored 1,000,006 on 5 goals. It felt like
1,000,006 on 5 goals. And in terms of like underlying possession stuff, I'm doing some work with AWS for an article I write this week for their ice tilt, which is where the players and the puck are in the game. And even when the Leafs would lose last year and previous years, they generally controlled the play. This year, they're no good. I mean, they're really no good. Of the teams who are going to make the playoffs, it's like them and LA who are at the bottom of that. They're never more than 50%, almost never. Twice in the last 15, I think. So, yeah, they're playing in a way that they don't have the puck, they don't control offense, and to your point, disconnected.
I think the crosshairs of a lot of Leafs Nation has made its way towards Craig Berube. And I think a lot of people are starting to talk systems, talk about matchup with roster in terms of the dump and chase and the north-south, and if it's a north-south roster. But, like, I don't necessarily agree, like, the start on time stuff and all these different things that have been a theme through 8 years where there's one common thing, and it's all these guys have played together for however long.
But hold on here. The Leafs have been good.
Yeah, in the regular season.
No, at the start of games in the stretch where they've been bad.
Yeah.
They've blown leads, 5 times, 6 times?
But I mean,
they're getting ahead.
He's alluding to the fact that, like, he didn't like the start. Like, we can play clip 2. Yeah, play clip 2.
I mean, it's hockey, right? There's certain stretches you go through where it's not there, and you just keep battling away as a coach, and you gotta, hold your players accountable to it, and they gotta hold themselves accountable to it. They need to make their mind up in the room, the importance of the start of the game. and 60 minutes of, urgency, details, doing things right, playing our game. We just, I didn't find that we wanted to play our game early enough in this game. We wanted to bring pucks back and play slow and try to go through them. And yeah, we had some chances off the rush. I get all that. But you don't build your game. Third period, we played more north, won more battles, more urgency, and it's a different period, right? So it's about us getting together here and putting 60 minutes together of that.
See, and this is basically
You're intrigued by that.
I am.
you don't agree?
I guess I'm curious about it. I thought they played well early in that game. And his point about regrouping, bringing it back, having the puck, I thought the Leafs looked pretty good. They end up giving up a few goals, and I'm not so sure that they started playing. They were way better in the third, but I'm not so sure that came on the back of dump and chase. I don't know. And I just know that going into, I've talked to coaches. We interview coaches all the time and ask them, do you coach to your roster or coach the way you want to coach no matter who's on your team? And pretty much Laviolette in particular was saying, well, you got to look at who you got. Coach your roster. What's their greatest strength? And it does feel like
he's coaching them as simple as it can get.
Well, that's it. But is that the right way for this roster?
I don't know.
I don't either. This is what we're going to end up seeing if he's right in the end.
Judging by the way I watched Austin Matthews play, no.
Mm-hmm.
Is it too simple for him? Is his creativity gone? Is his sense of I must do this, this, and this gone? And is it a trickle down effect? I'm just guessing right now. I don't know, but it just seems to me like they're on this like robotic must do this, must do that, must chip in puck, dump in, and it's like it's not working right now.
Mm-hmm.
And to Craig Berube's point, like you can be up a goal or down a goal, and you can think you're one shot away, but we can watch over the course of 60 minutes going, that team's harder on pucks. That team's in the Leaf end a lot more than the Leafs are in their end. They're not coming out of their own zone as clean as the other team. They're not making 3 or 4 direct passes like the other team. That's the problem. It's not just being up or down a goal. It's just that the overall optics of this team, it looks better than that team.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to me because it feels like the Leafs, I said I like their roster. So to me, they still have the same core 4 in their prime. They're great. They got this other layer of McMahon and Nyes who can be secondary scoring. I like their D-core more than I have. And I'm sitting there earlier today trying to figure out what is it I like less. And really, you have multiple players, individuals who are good players, having their worst seasons as a Leaf at the same time. And it's the first year that Berube's been here that, Matthews is at his worst and Riley's been at his worst. Say what you will about Tavares, who's shooting it in the net at a good rate. Mm-hmm. A lot of his numbers, they don't control the play.
No.
When he's out there at 5-on-5. And you need those guys to be great. And Marner is having, early in the season, we were like, this is an unbelievable season. He's kind of back to 100-point pace. He's been kind of dry.
Oh, he was awful Saturday night.
He had a tough one.
Yeah, he had a tough one.
Yeah.
He was a tough one.
And since Four Nations, they've just not been as...
couldn't handle the puck. He was giving it away. Yeah. Things that we haven't seen all season.
Can I ask you about him? And, you got to tread lightly here. But since this contract stuff and since the trade and since all that stuff, like the trade rumors and stuff, really good this Saturday night in Colorado, the day it happens, all that. Like he has 2 goals in that game. Pretty dynamic, has a bit of FU energy in that game. And since then, I don't think it's been particularly good. And he's fumbling pucks, like you said, way more than he ever has. Like, do you think that has any sort of bearing on what's happened over the past 3 games in terms of his confidence, in terms of what he's going through?
It is possible. Yeah, it is possible. But I look at a bigger picture that this team for a long time has been teetering on things that have not looked good or heading in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
They've been trending down much longer than the news that he declined to go to Carolina.
For sure.
But
That's
not
totally
but
accurate.
Not
So-
him. He
Well,
throughout
listen,
at Kyper, he was very good.
Eventually, if things don't get corrected, it affects everybody.
Yeah, it's fair.
And on top of that, now he's not playing at a high level anymore. For me to sit there and say directly that it became a huge distraction all of a sudden off of that Colorado game, now it's really sinking in, and I'd feel better if the team was playing well and then he started going south on his own, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
It is.
I
It is
just
another
thought it was a
thing.
You know,
worthwhile question.
But it's a legitimate question
Yeah.
now. It is. It's like, okay, well, how big of a distraction was it? Who knows what's going on in that room right now?
Someone wrote Sam and I, excuse me, guys, a very long email about how, when you're managing people, what it does to someone when you basically say, would you leave? You don't want to leave? Okay, you'll stay. Does that affect them in some way? Is there some sort of discontent or frustration? And I'm not just talking about Marner when I say that, but it's strange that they're not getting more out of this roster.
Yeah.
It's just strange because, again, and I've said it on the show today, I look at it and go, God, there's the bones. This could catch fire like that. It's like dry tinder. But for some reason, they cannot get the fire started.
It's damp mulch at the moment.
Exactly. It's like, why isn't this more dangerous? Why isn't this on fire?
Just to add to your question, you had to have thought that between Brendan Shanahan and Brad Treliving and Berube in July or August, there were ample conversations on we don't have Mitch on a contract past this season. How are we going to handle it? How do we make sure that this doesn't become a distraction or take the focus away from what we're trying to do this year? And can we say for the most part of the season, they were able to do that? And then
With Marner, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
we didn't sit here and we weren't even close to having Marner conversations like we had Willie a year ago.
I don't know
yeah.
if that's true or not. But
But no, we talked about Willie a lot more. Than
A
we talked
lot
about Marner,
more.
for sure.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Contract and what's going to happen and how much.
Mhm.
We just kind of left it alone. Everybody left the Marner. What's going to happen to Mitch Marner? And every once in a while it would pop up, but it wasn't like, ooh, are they going to trade him? Are they not going to trade him? How much? It didn't exist. For the most part, it was left alone. And then,
Bang.
boom,
Yeah.
bang.
Yeah.
And now, when you don't win, it will be asked
Well,
time and time again.
And here's the thing, Kip. This is not a good player on a good team who's a part of something greater. The Leafs are unique in that they spent so much of their salary cap on these few guys, and we've always said this, like Team A stuff. But if their Team A isn't elite, the whole plan doesn't work. The whole plan is built around these guys are not just good players in the league. They're among the 10 best, or whatever you think the numbers are, 15 best.
Between 10 and 20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're somewhere in that range. And, Matthews won a Hart Trophy. These are supposed to be this, not they're okay. So when they're okay, they're an average team.
Right
so-
back on their shoulders.
What's that?
It's right back on their shoulders.
100%. And that's the way it's constructed. It is their team to win or lose. So tonight they're playing a team, the Calgary Flames, and we'll get more into that, who I was a part of the Flames broadcast. Last week we interviewed Ryan Huska before the game, and he said, we have a leadership group of 6. He said, I'll give you the 6 names right now. And it's, Coleman, Kadri, Anderson, Huberdeau, whoever it is exactly, Uyghur, 6 of them there. And they come in his office, and they meet every Monday, and they talk to the team, and they're this part of whatever. Are the Leafs that connected with the coach and the team and whatever? We do have a quote on their leadership group.
It was about they kind of got a play the clip 3 there, Derek. Berube, clip 3.
What stands out about the leadership group so far? What you've learned about them that leads you to believe they're going to be able to get this back on?
Oh, 100%. I do believe that. Yeah. These guys, they want to win. Trust me on that. They want to win, and they want to. There's a sense of frustration for sure, and we got to look past that. We can't, complain about or, get undisciplined because teams are checking us hard, and that's what you got to get through. They checked hard tonight. Florida checked hard. Teams are going to check hard. Every game we play, they're going to check hard. And you got to fight through the check. You got to fight through the checking.
So is that what's happening to his leadership group of Marner, Matthews, and
Not fighting through checks.
not fighting through checks now?
I don't know.
Watching Matthews. It's like
He's behind them 100%. He will not question
Of course.
anything about them.
Yeah.
Right? But
They-
with 15 games to go, is he smart to do that, or should he challenge them more?
no, it's too late to challenge him.
I tend to agree, and whatever's being said behind the scenes, you hope.
Got to be on the same page.
He's got to get them going.
But the one thing he repeatedly has done here, which, I tweeted some of my frustration about it, is he's gone back to the lines, right? Tonight, they're going to see the exact same lineup they've seen. Nice Matthews Marner. It's going to be Domi's playing center again on that third line we've seen with Robertson and McMahon. It's back to
Holmberg into the top six.
right. Like, this is back to his comfort spot. And you can either look at that as this is a show of confidence that he believes in them and this is the way it's going to
Habits
be,
take time to break.
or a lack of creativity in looking for other things. Why don't we listen to Berube clip 6 on the new old lines?
With, just success that we've had, and the chemistry that they have. And then I wanted to create a line of, with Lawton and Lorenz and Yarny of just more of an identity line, a checking line.
There you go.
So now they got the guy they got to play center so Domi doesn't have to, Scott Lawton, who fought last game trying to get himself into the game as a Leaf, had his best touches, threw some hits. They got him on the fourth line. Kampf is still out, the guy who was playing 15, 16 minutes a game for this team 2 years ago. That to me is like, you're not doing this in playoff. Kampf is going to be in the lineup. You're not playing Lawton on the fourth line. I don't get that one.
Okay, just to add to the broader scope of a conversation, let's get Craig Berube's thoughts on Lawton's game Saturday night.
Clip at 9.
Well, his best game was last game. Way more involved playing his type of hockey that he plays. And that was one of the thoughts going into putting this line together. That's probably a good line for him. That's playing that hard hockey, that heavy hockey, checking hockey, physical, with those two guys. So we'll see where it goes.
Okay, so for me, I said the first two games he's got to be more physically engaged than he was Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you didn't trade him to replace Kampf.
No, he's new Kampf. That's what's going on here.
And what did they give up for him?
First and Grabankin.
Grabankin, third best prospect?
Whatever he is.
I don't know.
He's in the conversation of their prospects.
Yeah.
Okay. And the first you said?
Yes. I would much rather him said, Lawton's going to play on the second line with Tavares and Nylander or Marner, whatever.
Yeah.
Tavares and Nylander and Lawton.
Mm-hmm.
Lawton's going to be at the net. He helped Willie get his one goal. He's going to forecheck for them. He's going to be the grit and grind guy who, if he gets a touch, can shoot it in.
Mm-hmm.
We're back to Domi at third line center or whatever. That makes sense to me. Okay, well, you want to play him at wing. That's too bad it didn't work out at center. But now just fourth line center. Domi's still at center. It's like, what?
They're going to have to find a way to get him back up the lineup. You cannot trade a first and a prospect for a guy playing. What did he play Saturday? Even Saturday?
But he was hurt on for a bit.
He left the game late. Well, it was like midway through the third period. He got high stick, probably around the 10-minute mark. Didn't come back. So he probably
13.
played, I was going to say probably
Okay,
12
all
or
right.
something.
So maybe he was headed towards 14 or 15, but that's where he has to be eventually here.
Right. If I'm Tree, I'm like, what do you mean he's playing fourth line center? We just got him for you.
So I'm not going to claim buyer's remorse here, but I always,
Sounds like you're about to.
I always pushed for the team to get somebody that could come closer to supporting Willie, Austin, Mitch, Tavares, a guy that could step in and hold his own just in case maybe Tavares went down with an injury. That's not Lawton.
No,
That's
they went
not.
big
They
on D.
needed a guy that could legitimately hold a top 6 spot on his worst days.
But they didn't get him. And so now it's like, we need to get the most out of this guy. We need to get the 15, 20 goal Lawton, who every 4 or 5 games shoots one in, 4 checks, plays 15 minutes, kills penalties. This is not setting him up for success. Unless you feel like he's off, he's hurt, or he's whatever. And let's give some credit to Lawton. Tough spot. Career guy, 30 years old, been a Flyer his whole life. Comes to Toronto where there's max pressure. You're getting settled. You're on the road. It's a lot. That was his 3rd game, I think, with the team. And now they're like, yeah, you're going to be 4C. I just don't love the way that sets him up. I do feel like I would rather see Kampf play in their 3rd line center. Try to get this guy going. He's a guy that I know there's more there. And we've seen him be more for them. He scored 10 one year, playing 15 a night.
He's still your most natural centerman outside of your top 6.
And they got Austin killing penalties, as one of the first guys over the boards. Well, Kampf's either not killing or in the press box. This guy was your best killer. Him and Mitch can go kill. Save Matthews from playing 22 a night, play him 20 a night, and let Kampf kill.
Okay, let's get Craig Brewery's
Can't
thoughts.
disagree with anything you just said there, buddy.
Let's get his thoughts on the PK clip 8.
Well, I mean, there's mistakes that happen on PKs, right? And there's goals that go in. I mean, the one went off Tanny. I mean, it's we're not going to go away from what we do as a penalty kill unit, but there's always things that we try to clean up on it a little bit. Again, on the penalty kill side of things, it's got to be a little bit more urgency in that department too, and blocking some more shots, taking care of the front of the net. If you look at the goals that Florida scored on us, they're right there in the crease, and we gotta win those. We gotta do a better job of that.
He just mentioned the goal that went off of Tanev's stick, Giroux.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not a bad bounce, hard luck, bad bounce. You go watch the face-off that was just 5 seconds prior to that. At least want a clean draw, and McCabe, who is shoulder to shoulder on the wall with Zetterlund.
Yeah.
He's first on the puck. Like, McCabe is totally flat-footed.
Mm-hmm.
He gets the puck back to the wall. Now McCabe goes and chases to try to find a puck that's not even 50-50. It's more like 70-30 Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
And he totally goes on the wrong side of the puck and creates this odd man rush. That's the goal. That's why the goal went in, not because it bounced a bad bounce.
Right, you put them in a spot.
2 colossal mistakes by Jake McCabe on that penalty kill, and those are the mistakes that kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's not been great. lately.
No, he had a very difficult night, in my opinion. And this is the stuff that when you're 15 games out of your first game in the playoffs, should not happen.
I will say I don't hate that they're not like peak right now, because I feel like teams peak right now and they think this is playoffs, and then you got a month of hockey and all of a sudden it's like, that's a long time to hold the peak. But you want some signs that things aren't bad, and they're not getting a ton of those.
I don't want it to feel like the start of a slide when you're already 6 games into it, right? You want it to feel like there's signs of them coming out of it. Like, I watch them play right now, and the thought that crosses my mind is like, thank God they got good goaltending at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Because there's been, how many times have we talked about how many points goaltending has gotten them this year? Like, we settled around 10, 12 points.
I think we're past that.
But like, just for argument's sake, let's say it's 10 points and they had lost 5 due to goaltending or lost 6 due to goaltending out of that stretch. You'd be fighting tooth and nail for a playoff spot. Like, the East, all of a sudden, all these teams are right around there. Ottawa's 4 points back of you.
Yeah.
Got to wake up here in a hurry.
So did goaltending cover up
Yeah.
a lot all along here?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've been on that, I
Yeah.
think. Like you said, they don't
So is that the
outshoot,
difference between
outchance.
one less chance or two less chances offensively and now more? Like, it's ridiculous to think that you need that high level goaltending to be successful.
Definitely.
Like, it's unrealistic.
It is, but you go in playoffs and you're playing north-south and your goalie's hot and you got a couple of superstars. It's not like you can't see a world where they have success with it. It's not. The process is bad.
There will be 16 other teams claiming the same thing,
Of course.
but with more reputable, high-end goaltenders
Yeah, but they're not-
than what
that's-
the Leafs have.
That's not the case because they're not, Florida's not, or Colorado or Vegas, they're not going into it going, we're going to get outplayed, we're going to get great goaltending and hope we get some in, hope we get some bounces. That's the Leafs game plan right now.
Yeah, that's a bad game plan.
It's beaten them in the past, but I agree it is. But it,
Yeah, they got to clean up in front of them.
so I don't know if the answer is, do you max out Matthews to try to win the division? By the way, you mentioned Ottawa 4 points behind them. They're 4 points out of first because Florida keeps stinking it up, and they have 2 games in hand.
Florida only played well against the Leafs.
They're right there.
Blew a lead
for the
to the
division
Islanders
still.
last night.
I know. So do you want Matthews to pin it, try to win the division in hopes of getting Columbus or Montreal? Or do you want to sit him down and say, we just need more from you later? We just need more from you come playoffs.
The rest hasn't worked.
Are we all in belief, though, that he is physically not right?
Yes.
I
'Cause
can't
I-
speak to being physical or mental, but he's not right.
I have no other conclusion to say that he's physically not there.
Well, the thing that makes me wonder, is it mental? And Sam, I'll give you credit because you're the one who brought up the play from before the show.
Oh, the stick?
Yeah, where Nyes wraps one around and it lands on Matthews' blade in the slot with 7 minutes left, and he panicked. One hand flew off the stick. He kind of fumbled it into someone's skates, and it was like,
You know the meme from the office where the guy's
Carrying
carrying
the
the
chili?
chili? That's what it looked like. I'm like,
and
this
it's
guy
like,
is the greatest goal
that's
scorer in the world.
the best guy,
Yes.
right? The net shooter inner guy. It's whether it's confidence or something else or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just he has moments you're like, wow.
I think in the first intermission, if I'm not mistaken, Ron McLean on Hockey Night in Canada asked if there should have been a penalty on him. Do you recall them getting
The hook.
tugged?
It was the hook from
A hook,
behind,
a
but it
tug.
wasn't much. I like the officiating on Saturday. Only 2 penalties.
To me, he looked like he needed help from the official to draw that penalty. He didn't get it. I honestly believe if it was Austin on a 60 or 70 goal pace, he gets that call all day long.
Oh yeah.
Now, I think don't look at me for help is what the officials, I think, treat Austin Matthews now.
Yeah, I don't know. He's
He's not getting the benefit of anything.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's all gone not his way. And which is funny because he's,
And-
whatever he's got.
All that Leaf fans
27
have,
goals.
and the people keep texting me, maybe it'll flip this time.
Yeah.
That's literally all anyone's like, hey, maybe they suck in the regular season, and as soon as the playoffs, they're good now. That's all anyone's clinging
Well, it
to.
is funny because
We should go, by the way.
everyone has said that all year long, including yourself and
Yeah, me,
yourself at
yes.
this time. Who cares? They go on hot streaks. Let's see it in playoffs. Well,
It's a great
let's see it in
point.
playoffs.
Don't ask us. Let's ask a two-time Stanley Cup champion. Craig Simpson is up next. We'll ask him, is it as simple to flick the switch going into the playoffs? When we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Welcome back to the program. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. All right, let's go to a guy who's been along every stretch of the way for the Toronto Maple Leafs, along every Leaf fan, and Sammy McKee watching every minute, every time the Leafs have stepped on the ice. Let's welcome in Craig Simpson. Simmer, how's it going?
Great. How are you guys doing?
We're good. We just have finished a conversation before we went to break. Yeah, we still got some hockey to go here, Craig, but
Yeah.
Sammy tells me there might be some in Leafland who just say, hey, just get to the playoffs and hopefully they hit the switch here. Is it as easy as that sometimes?
Well, it can be. I mean, I think you always go through the ups and downs of a season and the highs and lows and try to keep perspective on what you are as a team. I know for Sammy as a fan, that there's the hard part, because look at the ups and downs and the roller coaster ride that it's been. You win 3, you lose 3, you win 5, you lose 3. So there hasn't really been a progression. I heard you guys talking about, I think it was Justin who's saying, you almost don't want to be playing at your ultimate best right now. There's still 16 games to go, and do you want to waste them? To me, I get a lot of feeling of that as, I don't think any team in the league right now is really pushing all that hard to be, let's say, the President's Trophy winner. They've seen too far in the past, the journey to get to that, which means nothing at the end of the day. A lot of times you've wasted a lot of good things and bang, you get turfed out early. So, there is a mindset, as a player too, Kip, you're in that grinding out days where you go, I'm focused on trying to be ready for the playoffs. So I'm going to get my mind and body, which I think is okay. It's okay to have some, imperfections in your game. It almost gives the coaches a chance to pick you apart a little bit and to keep reminding and working on things. The problem is, though, when you go through these little stretches that all of a sudden become what now, a 6-7 game stretch with just one win. And now you look at the standings and you go like that's what hit me on Saturday was Ottawa wins that game. They're 4 points behind you. All of a sudden you might be in a wild card spot, which you didn't have in your mind. So I do think this is a key week and a key time to sort of snap yourself back into shape and make sure you get the details of your game going back again, because it can, those 4 losses in the last 5 games can turn to 6-7 pretty quickly. Now it's a different game, and it's a whole different feel the way you feel as a player going into the playoffs to try to prepare to play the best when you have to then.
Simmer, you've been along with these versions of Leafs team the whole way. What do you feel is different about this team this year than some of the previous versions that have headed into the playoffs with high hopes?
Well, that's a good question. I just think they've been tested in different ways. Even last year's team, this year's team has one more win, 39 in 66 games. Last year they had 38.
Wow.
They had 9 overtime losses last year, so they had a few more points. But it's kind of been the same, hasn't it? We've said early on it's not a whole lot of difference. I think the difference this year with the players and in their mindset is, I heard you saying before, you got a bunch of guys that aren't having career years. Mm-hmm. You had last season where you had a career year from Matthews, you had a career year from Meyer, you had a career year from Nylander. All your big guys. So you're going in and you've been pushing for some individual milestones. I think that has been something that in the back of even the player's mind, I've said for a while here, for Matthews, you're not worried about goals so much right now. You know that the season's kind of gotten away from you that way. I think you're focused on, and I've always felt this, a refresher once the playoffs start. And so you can set the reset button. What do you got in the tank now? Play when it matters the most. I said to you guys after the game on Saturday, I just haven't seen a real identity of this team yet. The north-south stuff that Craig talks about, I don't see it all that often in the games. And it doesn't necessarily take shape in the way that they're playing or how they're able to take control. I understand the concept of how you want to play, and you want to play a little better. To me, defensively is going to be really important, but you have to have that ability to break a game open. You have to have that ability to change a game. And I think that's probably the only real thing that would concern me lately is the fact that they've been giving up the leads, even when they've had a good start. Thank goodness they got the points out of Utah, because that was a great start and a 3-0 lead in a tough building, and boom, you don't get anything out of that, and it changes things. So, the game in Colorado, as we have Colorado on Wednesday, the ozone possession time in that game was plus 504 for Colorado over Toronto. And, when you look at the difference of this team, to me, I didn't mind them being a possession team. I thought that kind of got the rhythm of their game going, and I do think there's an element of that they're missing a little bit, and that to me will be the most interesting. I like the fact that you can go into the playoffs with maybe a different mindset, that the game changes and you know how to play that game maybe better. You know how to check, you know how to forecheck, and you can do it when it matters the most. But I think that's why at times you've seen the ups and downs from this team offensively.
You're listening to Toronto Maple Leaf and Hockey Night in Canada analyst Craig Simpson. So, Simmer, you mentioned working on things. You just mentioned moments ago their own zone. Where would you, if you're Craig Berube starting tonight, prioritize where the focus needs to be if you only had one, maybe two things starting tonight?
Well, I'd start with a little bit of just the simple thing that you can always begin with is I want to see a desperate team. I haven't really seen that for a while, and that kind of stuck out to me. I didn't think, as Justin said, I didn't think they played badly against Ottawa. What stuck out to me was Ottawa looked like a hungrier team. Ottawa looked like a jump in and get in on the forecheck and win those little puck battles. I didn't get a sense of, man, this is an important game against a rival, So that you got a Calgary team coming in that's trying desperately to stay in the playoff race. To me, Kyper, you have to manage emotions in this game, and I think some of those are sort of dipping a little bit. I'd want to look at my team and say, show me that you can just take control of the game. Get out there and be the harder team to play against, have desperation in your game. And then I do think the structure of their game and their D zone, I think I heard you earlier talking about too much separation between the D and forwards. That's creating some turnovers. Have some structure in your own zone so that you can come up with speed, that you can even chip and chase and get after it because you're coming in unison, you're not getting trapped in your own zone. Come playoff time, can't play and execute along the boards in your own end, that's going to be where teams get you in trouble. So I'd be looking for two simple things like that. And I know it's the hardest thing at times to create is that emotion, and it's not necessarily a big rival in Calgary. But trust me, I've watched Calgary a lot lately. They're going to be a hungry team, and you better come out and be able to match their intensity.
Craig, is it fair to point right at Austin Matthews and say it starts with you with the sense of urgency or whatever else emotion you need to draw?
Yeah, I think you're always looking to your leadership group. And let's face it, in the games where, say, in the past, he could inspire or bring everybody up to a level with, oh, man, is he dangerous? Oh, wow, the quick shots and scoring. That hasn't been happening. And you could debate why or how and the reasons for that. So you don't get that same natural jump from having Matthews on the ice where you go, oh, let's follow that shift up. Man, was that a great play. I think it's been more subtle things for him in his game. I don't think he's played poorly, but it hasn't had that kind of impact. So, yeah, I do think this is one of those stretches. Nick, you're on game 3 of a 4-game homestand. It's been, 2 losses in a row against divisional guys. This is your one chance that you say, okay, can he jump up and be maybe the guy that inspires guys to take their game to a different level?
Do you think there's anything to the concerns about energy levels, like particularly the Stars who did the Four Nations thing and travel in the season?
Yeah.
I know all teams go through it, but for some reason the Leafs seem to be having a hard time with it.
Well, I think there is. I think the Four Nations, no question. You've seen it with a number of guys around the league. But this is the ups and downs of a year. I just think that managing yourself emotionally, physically is a real journey throughout the whole course of the season. And I think some guys, for whatever reason, at times just find they can't get themselves out of a funk. Look at what the schedule is there. I know everyone's talked about the back-to-back games. If there's 16 games, 8 of those games are back-to-backers, right? They've got 4 more back-to-backs, not huge travel. But if I'm looking ahead there too, that's where it does. The onus is you're not going to be practicing very much. You're going to be resting is probably as big a weapon, and that's a challenge for Berube too. When you're tinkering and you're not feeling good about the structure of your game, this is the time of year that it becomes a lot more difficult to try to work on it when you're trying to manage guys' energy too. So as you know, guys, you want to drop the puck to start the playoffs and you want everybody to be working at their top level. I think I told you before, like Kevin Lowe, when my rookie year in Edmonton, started in January, February, saying, come on, we're going to go work out extra before practice to get ourselves and our bodies prepared for playoffs. You know, there's the foresight of going, this is going to be a long journey, so we got to start banking some workouts and banking things. Now, Eric, that was so long ago because you didn't have the trainers that you do now. But that's the mindset of going, this is the time now that you might have some games that you're not playing well, but if you don't go in the playoffs thinking that it could be a 24 or 25 game long journey, you're probably not going to make it past 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games because your mind's not ready to put in the effort to work that level for that long.
We'll be looking for that sense of urgency as early as 7:36 tonight, Toronto and Calgary. Simmer, great job as always. Really appreciate it when you do find time for us, man. Thanks for doing this.
All right, take care, guys. See you.
That is Craig Simpson.
Thanks, Simmer.
2-time Stanley Cup champion, Hockey Night in Canada.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, no one who watches this team closer. And do you feel any better about the Leafs after his thoughts on?
I've come to the conclusion covering this team, especially in these years of prime everybody, that they're never as good as you think they are, and they're never as bad.
Yeah.
So somewhere in the middle lies the truth. We will see better hockey from them. They will be better.
If they don't get better, they're going to miss the playoffs. So hopefully they get a little better.
It does feel like I've kind of forced myself to, in past years, I have felt like they carried play and had potential to be one of the best teams in the league. Like when they lost to Boston last year, they controlled a lot of that series, and I thought we're the better team. They lost a series to Tampa where they were the better team.
Was so good last year.
Yeah. There's times where I felt like, God, that's a pretty good team that got a bad break. I feel like I have had to resign myself to this is like the 9th best team in the league, and they're going to need to get red hot with good goaltending to go on a run. Like, it doesn't feel like if everything breaks as it should, they're going to win. It feels like, God, they're going to need some help.
I love what Simmer said there about just what he would be talking about if he was Berube.
Mm-hmm.
And just show me some urgency. Like, did he say it urgency 100 times today after the game, at practice today? Show me you can take over a game.
Let's hear that clip. We actually have Berube talking about addressing a lack of urgency in clip 5.
Clip 5, yeah.
Yeah, this morning I think, we went over a few things where we're at as a team and, talked about some urgency that we need a little bit. We need more, obviously, throughout the game, not when it's desperate time, I think last game, I thought that we talked about it, that Ottawa was a little more hungry than us early on in that game. We got to get that battle level and that urgency level up. Guys understand that. They're not very happy right now, which is a good thing. And, that's really the message. The message, too, is we're right there. I mean, we've got 2 games in hand here. We've got to take care of our business and starting with tonight's game only and focus on that and go from there.
They're right there. Are they? Yeah.
We're going to learn a little bit more tonight, you think?
It's a certified must-win.
I'm betting on the Maplers tonight. It just feels like they got to have one. They got to have one tonight,
60
man.
minutes.
They're a good team. They're at home.
Please win.
They need one tonight.
Must win.
Must win, says
Certified
Sammy.
must win.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break here. And when we return, a coach who is a runaway for the Jack Adams Coach of the Year. What do you think?
Definitely.
In Washington.
Pretty close. Yep. Pretty close.
All right. We've got Spencer Carbery coming up next. We'll talk a little OV and the Washington Capitals on the National Hour when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. All right, let's kick it up a notch here. It's the National Hour on Real Kyper and Bourne. Live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper is brought to you by Bet365. All right, boys. Good weekend?
Great weekend. Yeah. You?
Yeah, really good.
Beautiful weather here in the city of Toronto. Had you dreaming about golf?
Totally.
I got a call or a message from Brett Kissel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Cool.
who performed last night at the Horseshoe Tavern, which was spectacular. This is.
Did you go to the Horseshoe Tavern?
I did.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
You went out?
I went out.
And to a cool place, no less.
No. Like this is like two legends
Kipper,
coming together.
I can't believe you went to the Horseshoe Tavern.
Yes.
I love the Horseshoe Tavern.
Oh my God!
How'd you not call me? My
Yeah.
wife's away, buddy. I would have been down there
Buddy.
slugging beers with you, no problem.
Brett went to the lefty late in the game out of the bullpen, and I went there. My wife, my son, and a couple of friends, and it was spectacular.
That's
and
awesome.
He is so good, so talented. Just to watch the passion that he has for music, and of course, we were brought together through his love of hockey. Many NHLers, current and past, very good friends with him, and to sit and hear stories, and the admiration he had for Stompin' Tom and Gord Downey, of course, of the hip, and he told this amazing story of like the love he had for Johnny Cash as a kid growing up, and he wrote him a letter, and he got a return letter from Johnny Cash the day Johnny Cash passed away.
No way.
And I'm like,
That's so cool.
so cool.
Why was he playing at the? He's a pretty big deal. Was it like a special event for him to play at the Horseshoe?
It was, I think, a family and friends VIP.
Dude,
Sometimes they get together and just hang
That's
out.
fantastic.
The tour is the side you'll never the side you've never seen tour is coming up for him.
He's boys with my boy Chad Brownlee. They're a couple of Canadian hockey boys making it in country music.
Yeah.
Kissel did like straight up play-by-play analysis for us on Sportsnet.
Really?
One year when the Oilers were, I think, in playoffs. It felt like every other broadcast they had him on the mic,
well, then
weighing in.
We're getting him on for the Oilers playoffs.
We'll definitely
100%.
We'll
That's
definitely
awesome.
get that done. So big
Fantastic.
shout out to BK. Thanks for doing that, bud. All right.
Sour, he didn't invite me. Sour.
Sammy.
He said friends and family. You
Listen,
are neither, apparently.
I get along well with people, Kipper. I would have crushed
says-
it down there, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, he said he loves our show, me and Borny and that other guy. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
I love you.
All right, in a few minutes, we'll welcome in the head coach of the Washington Capitals. So far, I don't know, is there anyone close to him in terms of a potential coach of the year? Spencer Carbery doing an unbelievable job. They're toe-to-toe right now with the Winnipeg Jets for number one President's Trophy. We'll ask him in a few minutes if it means anything to go for it.
Yeah.
15 games to go.
You want to hear about the elevation of Rasmus Sandin into a legitimate number one D?
Yes. Ovi now 8 behind.
He's at 887. So yes.
887, which has him within 8 of breaking the record.
And just to answer your question, according to our beloved Bet365, he is minus 900 to win the Jack Adams for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, it's as locky as locks get
yeah.
for NHL awards, I would say.
And
And, the only thing that could really dent that is if one of Montreal or Columbus were to get in when preseason, I think both teams were completely written off.
you guys watched the Oilers last night? You were on the broadcast, so you watched it closely. But
I did.
You were at Brett Kissel kissing Kissel, so you weren't watching it.
Yeah.
But good win for the Oilers, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought that they looked pretty good. I thought McDavid was really involved. It's Rangers aren't great, but they'll take any wins they can get. And I thought they looked pretty good last night.
Yeah.
We just spent the last hour, obviously, Leaf talk on our show and the conversation of Austin Matthews having an off year. But so is Connor McDavid by numbers.
Yeah.
He's still going to end up with 105 or 110 points and maybe 80 assists. But
I think he's a dozen back at Drysdale.
at 30 goals, is that like a bad year? Is it an off year? How would you describe Connor McDavid's season?
Yes, I mean, he's got 1.41 points per game. Most people would say that's pretty exceptional, but I mean, it's a decline in his production. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, he's not scoring as much. So I don't know, call it Matthews-esque, if you will, where you go, still a great player. And obviously he controls the game at a different speed than Matthews. But yeah, definitely a little bit off, and strange to see him 15 points back at Leon Draisaitl. He's played 5 or 6 fewer games.
Can I ask you, this is a maybe stupid question, but watching that Oilers game last night, what are your thoughts on Jacob Wallman, defenseman, wearing number 96? Are you a number snob by any stretch of the imagination? It does bother you.
What are you thinking?
I just think it's a total hotshot number. And for me, a defenseman wearing 96 is crazy.
Fine. I'm not I judge the guy morally.
It offends me a little bit.
But it does offend me.
One less than McDavid.
Yeah, it's so true.
Like, there's McDavid's on your team and you're 96, and maybe it's stupid, but it just rubs me the wrong way.
I got to tell you, I got a kick out of Lou Lamoriello being like, none of those numbers for you kids.
I'm so past numbers now that it just, whatever the number is, it's, in my day, you had a high number. It meant you were getting cut 7 days into training camp.
Yeah.
If you're
you don't want to be number 64.
Bad sign.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Right?
Do you remember, though, like Nylander joined the Leafs, he wore number 29. Because Lou was like, you're not wearing 88. You're not one of those guys. You're not Eric Lindros all-time. Because for a long time, it was everyone kind of wore the low numbers until you thought you were whatever. Gratz could do it because he was Gratz.
So who was like the best 96?
Bure.
Yeah, Pavel.
Oh, wow.
But Pavel didn't start.
right?
He didn't start 96.
He's 10.
10.
And then he went to 96.
Yeah, he elevated. He reached another stratosphere. Has Wallman done that? But it is one of those things where it's like, of course he can.
For sure. Like, whatever.
Also,
Was he 96 in San Jose?
to be
I don't
fair,
even remember.
I got to tell you, I have no idea.
I have no
Didn't
idea
watch
either.
many of his games there, but anyways,
The important thing is, Sammy, he can skate a puck out. He
snap
can-
a breakout
he also
pass.
smunched someone
right?
a game or two ago.
Rantanen,
And that
Yeah,
was
that's right.
that was a good pickup, right?
big time.
And they paid for it, though. He wasn't cheap.
Yeah, and hopefully a guy that they're going to have for a while. He's going to be a big. If they have success, he's going to need to be a big part of it. So big pickup for sure.
Okay, so we're waiting on Spencer Carbery, but like just between me and you, before he comes on, like you think like, nah, Washington this year? No.
No, what?
I'm asking you.
No.
Are you one of those guys that says they've overachieved during the regular season and that bubble's going to burst in the playoffs? Or do you believe in them?
I think over the course of the season, you're almost forced to wrestle with, I didn't think they were this good. But it's not like they got hot over a weekend here. Like, we're into 65 games and, on track for the President's Trophy. They have built something pretty impressive here. And frankly, preseason predictions were really hard with a team that rebuilt in the way they did. Lubois, Mangiapane, Duhaime, Bavillier, Sandin, Chychrun, Matt Roy. Like, they are a different team than they were in the past couple of years. So, is it McClellan there? Or no, it's not. It's Chris. Damn. Either way,
Who's that, winger?
the GM for
Brian.
Brian
McClellan.
McClellan. But isn't that another guy now? Anyway, they're give them credit. They did bring in the right bodies to help them out. When
Chris Patrick
Chris Patrick.
under McClellan.
Yeah. I'm just the subtle pickups that you thought, and Pierre-Luc Dubois, we're just looking at a trade to salvage his career. Right? Just to get a guy in there to look like you're not a complete write-off, which it felt that way when he left Los Angeles.
This Capitals team's first in the NHL in goals for per game, 3.63. Yeah. Dubois has found a way to be effective even when he doesn't score. He seems happy and content there.
And then McMichael and Protas.
Oh, right. Those two. I didn't even mention those two.
Right.
Who took massive steps. What's Protas on pace for? I mean, he's become a very legitimate, dangerous contributor.
They've quietly tied up their goaltenders on long-term deals.
But the other thing there, Kip, is, sorry to kind of go back to it, is like, if you win the East here, you're getting a team that's like, it could be Columbus, Montreal, the Islanders. It could be a team that, they're just not that good. And at that point, if you then play out of the Metro, the Carolina Hurricanes kind of had their mess up with their at the deadline, and then
They've been
Devils
hot.
are hurt. Like, you can see a path for this Capitals team.
Just waiting here. Okay.
Okay, as promised, let's welcome in the head coach of the Washington Capitals, Spencer Carbery. Hey, Spence, thanks for joining us, man. Much appreciated.
Anytime. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Okay, so many places that we can start, but so far, let's just go to big picture here. You're a team that got off to a good start and has not really looked back, and now it's a two-man race between you and the Winnipeg Jets for the President's Trophy with about average 15 games to go, and where's the focus on that? Is it something you guys talk about? Does it motivate you, or you quietly look at it and go, I don't like the record of teams that have won this thing in the past and won Stanley Cups as well?
We've talked about it as a staff, and we've sort of just gone with the same approach with our guys that we have all year. Is we haven't talked about big picture playoffs, records. Haven't even gone to segments. We keep it very, very short term. So, give you an example, like this week, we just come back from the Western trip, which we were kind of focused on those 3 games out there. Come back home, and now we've got a 3-game homestand. So we just kind of focus on these next 3 games at home, playing well in those scenarios, building our game, wanting to create an identity at home, which is going to be important to make sure that we continue to make our building a tough place to play in, and teams have a hard time with it and feel like they're suffocated with pressure and all that stuff that our game brings. So we're a real short-term focused team, to answer your question.
Carbs, it's Justin Bourne. I don't know if I've seen you since my fly up at the University of Alaska Anchorage.
Yes.
You've come a long way from hanging out with Matt Hansen and exactly. You know, your days hanging out up there with Matt Hansen and Chris Fournier, you've come a long way. Could you have imagined back then that you would end up where you are now? Is this something you always saw for yourself?
Absolutely not, Borno. Absolutely not. Never even crossed my wildest imagination to be coaching in the NHL, and having done it now for 14 years, could not have imagined it at any point back then.
Well, the Jack Adams would be a nice feather in your cap and something that would be well deserved for this season. Is that something you've put any thought into at all? Probably more focused on team metrics this season.
Yeah. Really am, and we have such a unique team that we've gone through so much over the last 2 years. Probably having followed us a little bit last year and making the playoffs, but also the goal differential. And some nights it didn't look great, and we frankly didn't look like a playoff team some nights when we were playing against some of the better teams in the league. But the way that we grinded through it, and especially down the stretch, found ways to win. And then this year, it's just provided a ton of challenges for us as coaches to try to how can we help this group take the next step? And we don't have, 4 or 5 guys or a handful of guys that are going to be 120-point guys and 50-goal scorers. But what we do have is we've got a team. And so that takes a lot from our coaching staff. Does an amazing job of getting everybody on the same page, because we need every single guy every night. And that's sort of the strength of our group is the group, and us being a deep team that plays 4 lines and goes 2 goalies deep and 6D deep.
You're listening to Spencer Carbery, head coach of the Washington Capitals. So you come out of your rookie season as a head coach, and you're staring at one of the greatest record-chasing situations in the history of our sport in Ovechkin, and you want to make the team better. Like, how many meetings would you have had with your coaching staff on how do we go about this, where it looks like we want to help Ovi get in the best spot without making it look like it's all about Ovi? Yeah.
I can tell you we've met and talked about it a lot, and talked to him personally about it a lot. And it's the best thing that goes unnoticed about O is he's through this all, he's so coachable and honestly, dead honest truth, team orientated. you'd be amazed, and the stories will come out when he's retired about, in the off season, it's all about free agency and who we adding and how we making the team better. And that's literally what he talks about. He doesn't ask me. He doesn't say, I need this, I need to play here. It's about how can we make our team better. And I think maybe one of the things, I don't know if I've told this story before, but at the end of last year, we got swept in the first round, and O had a tough first-round series against New York. And for him, when we met at the end of the season, and him being, going into now his 39-year-old season, the start that he had the previous year, he took it upon himself at 39, at the spot he is in his career, changes a little bit of his workout routine, makes some adjustments, goes, I have to find a way to be able to start better. I've got to train a little bit differently than I did at 27 years old, now at 39, makes these adjustments, goes back home, and then he comes in this season and completely flips. He's on fire right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. And so it just speaks to the greatness and the uniqueness of O and what he's doing and what he's accomplished. And anytime you doubt or think, I think he's running out of gas, he puts those immediately to bed. He's done that throughout the season, even coming back from the injury.
That's awesome. You just combined with Ovi have the most interesting team because you guys took on a number of new players this year where, people weren't sure where or how you guys would fit them in, and almost everyone has had success. But I do want to ask you about a couple guys internally who've taken big steps, and Alexi Protas and Connor McMichael. Did you know that their ceilings were as high as their performance this year?
That's a really tough one. Mikey, I've always known the production and always believed in his ability to produce because he's done it at every level. Now, a lot of people thought where he was picked and, he's probably going to be a third-line center in the NHL. Like that was sort of – but if you get to know Mikey as a person, I coached him his rookie year in the American Hockey League coming from London. You find out very quickly that if you doubt him and if you put limits on him, he's the type of player that very, very confident, self-motivated, and just finds ways to deliver and produce. So I always have never doubted that he was going to find a way to be able to produce at the NHL level at a top six clip, which he's doing this year. And pro is interesting because I would say the production offensively, I can't sit here and say, I knew he'd be a 30-goal scorer and producing the way he has after. But you're very confident that he was going to be a good NHL player. Like I had zero doubts about that. He's a Belarusian that when I coached him his rookie year, when he came to Hershey as well, over from Europe, and like crazy focus, crazy work ethic that you don't see in a lot of young players, and just self-motivated. Like this guy every day on the ice working, trying to fine-tune his game, and even in film wants to be coached, wants to learn, always asking for more. And so with his size and how much he's worked on his skating and how much he's worked on his shot, you're not surprised at him having the success that he's had.
Want to touch on your blue line. Firm believer that championships are built from the net on out. The goaltending's been great, but this revamped blue line in such a short period of time. Spence, I've always been a big fan of John Carlson. I think he's still to this day underrated. But
totally agree.
But the support that he's gotten from particularly Jacob Chychrun, to me, is off the charts. And I look at even Sandin, another guy that couldn't fit with the Leafs. Chychrun couldn't fit with Ottawa, but they come to your team and around Carlson and Matt Roy and the rest of the group, man. This is one tough blue line.
Yeah, and to echo what you said, John Carlson is such an underrated defenseman in every situation. A lot of people that don't watch him on a daily basis just equate the first unit power play and the years that they've seen film of him there and replays of that. He does so much more, and I would argue he is way better defender, so smart, good with his stick, plays heavy minutes against teams' top lines, no problem. So he's that multifaceted defenseman, plays in every situation, just so underrated. And then I think you're spot on with Chicky has done a really nice job of coming in and alleviating some of those offensive minutes from John. So now we can deploy him a lot of ozone starts with Dylan Strome's line. And it cuts down and doesn't make John at the point he's at in his career have to log 27, 28 minutes a night. And that's been a huge help for us. And Chicky's been awesome for us since the start of the year. The skating and his ability to walk the line and his shot is just so elite. And I couldn't agree more as well with Rasmus Sandin has taken a huge step because I coached him the 2 years I was in Toronto, and him now of where he's developed and how hard he's worked at his game. He's a 5-on-5 now minute eater. He's not an offensive. He can add that part, but he is so good breaking pucks out, defending with his stick, intelligently with his feet against some of the best players in the NHL. And so those guys have been Marty Fay-Arvey, same thing, underrated defender. Those guys have been huge parts of our success this year.
Hey, Spence, just for either a coach or a player out there watching or listening, how does a guy like Sandin go from being on a bubble or a fringe player to someone who can really solidify a spot on a hockey club? Is it mental, physical,
yeah,
where does it begin?
You know what it was? He looked at himself honestly in the mirror, and he was honest with himself and said, because early in his career, he wanted to be Erik Karlsson. Mm-hmm. He wanted to be the guy that would run the first unit power play and make all these plays offensively and get a ton of points. And then it got to a point in his career, and I think when he came to Washington, it's like, I can have a long, successful play on the national team, do all these incredible things in my career with being a great defender, being able to break pucks out constantly, and add a little bit of offense. Maybe I'm not Erik Karlsson. Maybe I don't need to score 90 points and run a first unit power play, but I also can be an elite defenseman in this league not doing that. And I think he really embraced that. And now defensively, he can penalty kill. He can play in all these different situations where I remember in Toronto, he was a little bit sheltered from. He didn't, you had to be careful about who he went out against. And, he wasn't put in those situations. And now I think he's just really embraced and understood that in this role and doing this as a defenseman in this league, there's tremendous value in it. And I can have a great long career in this league and be thought of as really, really successful.
That's great stuff, man. Well, listen, we really appreciate you taking some time out for us today and wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Yeah, thanks, Carbs.
Thank you, guys. You guys do a great job. Listen all the time.
Appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Spencer Carbery, head coach of the very good Washington Capitals.
Can I tell you who doesn't like Spencer Carbery? Absolutely nobody. Everybody loves Spencer Carbery.
Yeah.
Anyone you've ever talked to that's come across him, awesome.
I don't like him. Because he just talked about how, another classic Leafs guy that they traded too soon went somewhere else and figured it out. Sick.
Yeah.
On the heels of Fraser Minton scoring a natural hat trick, Sammy's having a tough time.
They traded future Patrice Bergeron from Martin
What's that
Marincin.
saying? When the student's ready, the teacher appears, something like that.
When the student's ready, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
right?
I like that.
And he just, that goes, you can sit there and blame the Leafs. They were dumb for letting him go.
It was a good trade at the time.
If a guy's not ready, if a guy's not ready and you can only wait so long, I get the fact that sometimes it's just not meant to be in certain places, and other places it falls into place. It could be a coaching style. It could be a confidence thing. It could be when you, to Spencer's point, it could be when you're ready to look in the mirror. That's the number one thing.
But I also think that when you see someone come up and you think of them as like Sandin coming in the league and you see them rise up and try to get better, it's really hard to see them with the same objective eyes as a new set. You trade him somewhere else and they say, okay, here's what he is now. you still kind of thought of him here as like, he's this young guy, hasn't found
Yeah.
it. He's,
Definitely something to that.
a new perspective, a fresh start for him went a long way. And you don't know if that ever happens here. So
I look at his time on ice from the last 3 seasons. So in 2022, 2023, he was 22, 59 in 19 games after he got traded there, right? That would have been when he got traded there. And then last year he was 2107 and he was finished -13, 23 points. This year he's played 67 games. He's 1858. He's a +19.
right where he should be.
They bring in Chikrin. They bring in Matt Roy. He's slotted properly. Doesn't have to play a ton. And it's like, he's in the right role and he's playing really well. So good for him. As I watch Simone Benoit try to break it off the glass every night. Okay, game time?
Game time.
It's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. All right, so just seeing what's on the ice
I'm going to
tonight.
need Leafs Flames at some point.
I'll give you Leafs Flames right now. Leafs Flames, 7:30 tonight on Amazon, which means they'll drop the puck at 8:45 p.m.
Good to know.
The Leafs are -205 favorites on home ice. The Flames coming in, fighting for their playoff lives as a +170 underdog. The total is reflective of the way these two teams have been producing offense recently.
5.5?
It is.
Yeah.
The over is slight juice in the over, -120 on the over. Under 5.5 is +100. So not a ton of value either way there, but they think it's going to be a low-scoring game. So that's the Leafs picture. Looking at the other action on the ice tonight, not a ton of great games. Buffalo and Boston playing in the earlier slate. Devils in Columbus. Columbus fighting for their playoff lives. They're an underdog at home against the Devils. Lightning hosting the Flyers, big favorites as you would imagine there. And later on, the Minnesota Wild hosting the Los Angeles Kings. And the Kings, boy, they look pretty good right now. They're -155 favorites in Minnesota taking on the Wild. And that was game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 18 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. As Sammy mentioned, 2 desperate teams, I think, for points tonight at Scotiabank Arena. We'll get into a little bit more of the Calgary Flames and Toronto Maple Leafs. Also, Rantanen back in Colorado. And this story just will not go away.
To quote everybody's favorite kids movie, let it go, let it go. What movie is that, Frozen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
We'll talk about that and more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. As a reminder, this hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. Just looking at that Western Conference. The Blues and the Utah Hockey Club.
Go HC.
Right in the mix of things.
Before we get to the bottom, I got a text on the text line for a request for Jets talk. And I will
Jets
say,
talk.
still good. Another win. Another win.
All
Okay,
they
back
do
to
is
the bottom.
win.
Back to the
Oh,
bottom.
and Mark Scheifele signed an autograph for my my nephew, so I'm
What a
big
guy.
fan. Way to go.
Anyways, back to the bottom.
Okay, we just had the head coach of the Washington. Who's going to win the President's Trophy?
Jets.
Jets talk.
Jets talk.
Of course,
No.
Do you really want that thing?
No.
I mean,
Yes, take it.
I do think that the one thing hockey fails at is we under-celebrate the President's Trophy. It is a monumental accomplishment in European soccer. That's it.
I mean, nobody
right?
even, they undersell a conference championship.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, they are currently in the lead.
While the
98
baseball
points.
players put on goggles.
Yeah. Division title. Woo.
Champagne.
They play for 3 years every season.
Yeah.
Their
But this
season's
is
so long.
Buddy, 82 games, grinding, fighting, playing. You come
Well,
out on
I
top
think
over
every-
31 other teams.
every round-
Yeah,
Let's get every round the players to celebrate like the baseball players celebrate. Goggles on, champagne everywhere.
and it's so funny. Guys will win massive Game 7 OT to win the second round. They're like, well, it's just part of the process. It's on the way to our ultimate goal.
Good.
Yeah, really can't wait for the next round to get underway.
Yeah.
Good. I'm
Good.
okay with that.
Good.
I'm okay with that. So, Calgary Flames, Toronto Maple Leafs, one of 4 in an Eastern road trip for the Calgary Flames. Back-to-back tonight and the Rangers tomorrow night.
Then New Jersey, then the Islanders.
Yes. So how many how many points they need on this Eastern trip for you, Calgary?
Well, let's break it down here. The Flames have the most games left of any team in the NHL. 17 remaining games. 71 points. They're going to have to get to, call it 91, 92. So we're looking at 10 wins over 17 games, maybe 11 wins would definitely get you in. That would get you 93. I think 11 wins is the answer. So, Kip, if they finish the road trip 500, 2-2, and they're okay.
They're okay.
They can come home and get to work on Seattle. Boy, tough stretch after that. Dallas, Edmonton, Colorado. Yeah, they're going to be searching for points here. It's going to be a grind down the stretch for the Flames, who, like I said, have a lot of hockey games left.
All those standings are gone, but I do worry about the Wild. They have a bit of a cushion here.
Oh, the bottom could fall out.
But there's some teams that are pushing hard, and I would imagine that they'll be playing each other a little bit here. Like they lost a lot of guys. Kaprizov hasn't played. Like they're definitely.
The bottom's been falling out for them for quite a while. The fact that they're only 6 points up, it takes a lot to lose. But the thing is, there's 4 teams behind them that can do it. So the one thing I have noted several times, I tweeted about it today, St. Louis, who kind of sold at the deadline but didn't sell.
Not really.
I thought maybe they would. Then they didn't really. Their schedule coming up, they got, Nashville, Vancouver, Chicago, Nashville, Montreal, Nashville. So they have a stretch here of 6 games where they should win 5 times. And they're all of a sudden a very realistic playoff contender, which couldn't have said pre-Montgomery.
Do we look at the Calgary Flames, who can't score,
Dead last in the NHL,
and look at the pressure on Dustin Wolf right now?
Mm-hmm.
He's had the last 3 starts. There's Toronto. You give him a break going into New York on tomorrow night.
Yeah.
You're
asking a lot. Vladar's been good for them.
Yeah, no. Listen, they're in it.
Yeah.
They're playing meaningful games.
They're trying to become the second team since, I think, 2005 to make playoffs while finishing last in the NHL in goals.
But you ride Dustin Wolf.
This is it.
Right?
He's young.
Right? I mean, you're not going to get many. This is an excellent chance for them to make the playoffs. Like, this is where you never in a million years thought you would have been. Like, think about the start of the year. People were picking them to be one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
And you're right there. You got to press at this point.
And they got Frost and Farabee with the intent of being pretty good. Now, Zari is still suspended, and someone else is hurt. I will find that shortly. But so they're missing a couple of guys tonight going into Toronto. But yeah, that back end of Weegar and Anderson, they've got some pretty good defenders and a good goalie. So,
did you see Kadri's goal today at practice? And he was going crazy.
I didn't like that as much as everyone else.
No,
to me, Anderson blows a wheel. I didn't think he got dangled that bad.
Yeah, it was a great move, but
that's where we're at now.
Well,
practice dangles.
Here's what I'll say.
I had the greatest angle in my life against Kevin Hatcher with the Washington Capitals, and there was
in practice,
no cameras.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could be a complete lie.
No, it's not, because I don't lie. But
call him up. Let's see what he says. Would he agree?
That's where we're at right now. We're like
they're searching for offense
practices.
It was a beautiful move.
It was, yeah,
it was.
But so also watching the Flames a little bit more lately. Kadri's great right now. He looks really good to me. He's one of the guys that helps them be somewhat dangerous, but more than any other team, they have to get to the net front, bank it in off guys. It's going to be one of those nights tonight for the Leafs. Can you clear them out of the house so you can't, to make it easy on Joseph Woll, who, by the way, is back in.
And Leafs handled them pretty easily when they went out there, so maybe they can repeat that.
The one thing that I think sometimes guys don't get enough credit for is when the one thing that I have a lot of respect for Naz is that he signed obviously a huge contract to go to Calgary, but the commitment to want to be there, legitimately want to be there, and not wavering off of it, not going, can't win here, get me out of here. That's, to my knowledge, that's never happened. And now that they look like, I don't know, maybe they're within a couple of years of competing, not 5. At least that's where it seems to be trending, especially with fantastic goaltending and the thought of being aggressive in free agency and watching Washington turn it around in 18 months, that he's never been that guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what to me is the tough part for the Flames now is this season was one of their rebuild years, and it does take them out of the running for like a big impact draft pick. You know, whether they get in or out, they're going to finish 14th to 20th in the league.
Yeah.
You know, so they're not going to get a top 5 pick this year. How do you get that top end talent? Calgary is not currently a top 10 destination in the NHL for free agents, maybe new building, having some success, maybe they become that. But right now it's like, that's the thing they're missing, because the young guys they have that are really great, Zary and Pospisil and Coronado, you know, a number
Wolf.
and
That's
Wolf.
important.
They got good guys.
Yeah.
But how do you get the guys who, when you're going to have to go up against McKinnon, McDavid, you got to play those great guys. So what's the next step for the Flames? Start with the playoffs, you know, give the exposure to your current young guys, and I guess hope you can find a guy along the way in free agency.
But to go back to your Kadri point, Kip, feels like if he had been said that he was thinking about wanting out, somebody would have traded for him. Like somebody would have been knocking down that door. Not like he was going to demand it, but if there was any rumblings or if there's
I'm
anything
sure Craig
that
Conroy got calls.
Sure.
But it's between two general managers and talking about value. But there's some guys that do make noise behind the scenes.
But let's also talk about the value of winning. Like if you're the Flames and you're bad this year, like maybe Kadri says, I don't want to do this. They're too far away. Maybe he says, okay, you're getting calls. I'm willing to go. And then you lose Kadri, and that stinks.
Yeah.
Adding to that, the Ottawa Senators, we've just added Wayne Scanlon's going to start writing an Ottawa Senators column per week on top of, you know, we have people writing about the Senators. You know, Alex Adams right now doing good work. So it's like we're adding coverage on the Sens because they're winning. It gets so much more fun when you win. Guys stay. People talk about you more. You're in the mix. It matters. It's March. 7 Canadian teams could make playoffs. 7. If Minnesota tanks.
Are we pivoting to a bit of Sens talk?
Okay, before we go into we will for sure. But like, I'm watching the Pittsburgh Penguins go on a heater right now.
Oh no!
And it's like, what
you
is,
fools?
What is the point?
Stop that.
Like, why are you like? Why did you call Jari up so he could win 4 in a row? And like, I can't believe
like we're gonna lose anyway.
But it's like, what's the point?
You're right. They very badly need to finish last.
Yes,
They've won 4 in a row now. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Sid's too good.
With Jari,
Yeah, Sid's too good too.
stunk the whole season, and I get that you're trying to.
They're 5 points out of the playoffs.
I get that you're. I don't know. You're trying to get him back. Like once upon a time, he was a decent goaltender, and maybe still a good one if he can clear his head. But this is not the time now to bury a potential top pick.
No, you're right. And
I hate saying this because 20 years ago, I hated the thought of tanking.
I still do, but if
But
you're
there's-
going to be
there's
bad
just
miss,
too much value in tanking.
they need to like kick the leg out from this table they're building here. Just let
Right.
this thing collapse and get
Okay.
the next Sid.
Ottawa Senators love.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to say love. I thought they looked really good Saturday.
Ottawa Senators like
Respect,
coming in hot.
Respect.
Give him some love, Sam.
Some respect. Not love, respect.
Okay, close enough.
What'd you like, Sam? What do you see with this?
I can't believe the Sabres traded Cousins to the Sens.
Oh, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt. It's going to hurt for sure.
Really
He's
big.
massive.
He's really big, and he
Skates sneaky well, goes to the front of the net, heavy.
Yeah, he moves the needle.
He's perfect for them. And it's like Norris is on the shelf with an injury. Cousins has a 30-goal season under his belt. I understand he's 23 years old or whatever he is. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be that guy every year, but he can sure be close.
The other thing that stood out to me Saturday night when I watched them is the pace of play controlled by Jake Sanderson and
He's a
Thomas
breathtaking
Shabbat.
Mhm.
Like they are game-changing guys.
Yep.
Flow, style of play, everything. When they're out there, they're so dangerous, you know.
strange team for me in that, like, they're kind of fine everywhere. You know, like they're as top lines go, Kachuk, Stützle, Giroux is good. But if you pick the top line on every team in the NHL, maybe it's the 7th or 8th best. And from there, every other line's okay. D pairs are okay. They're just solid. They're, Travis Green has them playing good hockey. And I thought Allmark was really solid.
Except for his extreme brain
except
fart.
for the one. Whoopsie.
It was so funny when he just was dropping his head before
He
Matthews.
was like, oh, God, it's Matthews.
Yeah, but no, I thought he looked really good.
Could have rattled him, but it didn't.
Yeah. He was wonderful in the third period. So this is what they paid him all the money for. He's been great. They've kind of pulled themselves out of the playoff race. They're so far ahead. They're 5 points up on the wild card 2 spot. So
Yeah.
they should get in. Old Andlauer, get some playoff gates.
All right. I did tee up yesterday's contest between the Dallas Stars and Colorado, where it was Mikko's return to Colorado, where he'll have many, many more going back into the Western Conference. But Makar, the difference maker in overtime, but this one can shape up to be a very good potential first round.
Oh, my gosh. They're loaded. And we'll get to the other stuff. Do you see Landeskog skating today?
I did.
Not skating, flying.
Yes, this will definitely call for a doctor segment.
We got to get the doc on. Yeah.
But, how can you not get excited when you watch that, when they put it out that he's been gearing up to try to come back? How early is he ready to start and playing games as early as this week, next week?
Can they salary cap wise, or does he need to be hurt for another month?
Yeah.
I think I think the play all along was to leave his salary open.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
They got less than $1 million in cap space right now.
Then this would have to be after playoffs. Yeah,
That's tough.
they all along they've left it open. I don't know what Brock Nelson did to them, and
That's jumping on a moving highway for a guy that hasn't played in how many years, putting him in there against the Dallas Stars.
The last time he skated in an NHL game, he won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it's a long time ago now.
3 years.
Yeah, it's like that's.
It would be the coolest thing ever.
Oh,
to
my
see
God.
him come in,
But that's the thing with the
play
salary cap.
fourth line, play 8 minutes,
it is a very
and
rare
then work his way up.
injury that he had, cartilage transplant.
Right, full replacement or whatever you call it. Like, here's new cartilage.
We need a doctor.
It was
We
fun.
will get one.
It's funny to hear because Rantan's nickname is
Moose.
Moose, but they're
Booing him?
Moose, Moose, Moose. It's like, are they booing him? Or are they saying Moose? Like, what's going on here?
He also had his 400th career assist, and the game
Yeah.
stopped, and he got to give the crowd a wave, and they cheered him.
Yep.
That was nice. He also made a great play on a Dallas goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
He got smudged at one point.
Yeah.
No, it was against Edmonton. Never mind.
Mhm.
But yeah. So imagine that this Dallas team, as good as they are, loaded, and they're waiting on Sagan to come back. And someone else.
Mikko.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Heiskanen.
Heiskanen.
Miro Heiskanen.
Yeah.
And then, get Landy back for Colorado. It would be better than the Stanley Cup final. No doubt about it.
That's like a borderline all-star game.
Right.
Those two teams playing against each other in terms of the amount of talent on both sides. It's crazy.
Silly loaded.
Yeah.
And someone's going to
And
be
then-
very disappointed.
Oh my
And the
God.
Jets just get to avoid that.
Yeah.
Win the whole kit and caboodle in the
Play the
West there. And,
Play the smoking hot Blues with Jordan Bennington coming in the first round.
oh, no.
I mean, last time Connor and him matched up didn't end that well for him.
Oh, please. You loved that one.
Anything to bring up the Four Nations.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Columbus sliding a little bit for you guys.
Yeah,
Is,
they've lost 4 of the last 5, I think.
Yeah.
Magic starting to dwindle a little bit. Storybook.
They're still right there, but it is one of those things where we had on Don Waddell, and we're like, you going to add? And he was like, they don't think this is their year. They kind of know where they are in their whole. They added the guy that we were like, please don't add him. What's his name from San Jose?
Oh, Kunin.
They added Kunin.
Yeah.
The Luke Kunin ad was officially the we did something move.
But you look at the standings, and it feels like the Rain. We'll talk to Valley a little bit tomorrow, but they lost last night, obviously, to Edmonton. But it does feel like they'll they'll get in and the Sens will get in, and that's all right.
Who's that? The Rangers will? Yeah. Detroit's the other team. I know Habs fans are like, what about us? And it certainly could be Montreal, but Detroit's schedule is actually very tough. Yeah. It could be Montreal.
Comfortable win for the Vancouver Canucks on the weekend against Chicago. The Blackhawks season cannot end fast enough for Connor Bedard.
Yeah, I legitimately feel for him. It's just playing out the string and hoping that the Blackhawks spend like crazy in the offseason and add someone, somehow. Mitch Marner.
Oh, gosh.
That would be great for them. Who else is available?
Ehlers.
Yeah, I like Ehlers.
Yeah, they're going to overspend.
They have to overspend, though. They're embarrassing themselves. This kid's, was that 2 years now in the league? It's like, okay, he can't finish 32nd or 31st next
The only
year.
problem is if a guy like that signs and he gets a lot of money, you're not going to win anytime soon.
Well, the hope is that the skyrocketing salary cap allows you to a little more than it has in the past. But yeah, I get, you might have to give someone an extra schmill to sign there. But it's better than what they've been doing, giving the extra schmill to Foligno and Corey Perry and those types.
You just look at this free agent class. It's like, God, Marner's gonna be very rich.
Yeah.
At the top, it's got, you got the normal the guys that you're talking about, but there's some there's a lack of depth to it.
Yeah.
Is what I'll say. But anyways,
So the Canucks, the ultimate, just rough vibes team for me right now. When they played the Flames the week before, it was like the two differing teams in terms of what they should be. The fact that they're the same place in the standings is crazy, but watching Petey last night,
Yeah.
nothing really happening. They had 9 shots through 2 periods. Puck's having a tough time getting that ship sailing.
Quinn Hughes is doing everything in his power. It's like
Dying out there.
but you'll give Petey a bit of credit. He's heated up a bit since I think he had 4 and 5 games before.
Yep.
Before they played.
And he'd been shooting the puck a bit more.
Yeah.
He's
turned it
hasn't
around a
been
little
all
bit.
bad.
No.
But I mean, when you're struggling like they are and you need goals and you've traded JT Miller, it's like, who's going to do this? And it's like, you.
Mm.
And he's like, meh. Besser struggling a little bit too. But yeah, I will say a lot of times the media takes a hard time for, being all over guys, being negative, whatever. But the people I talk to, are trying to find positive things to say during this Canucks season right now. But it isn't pretty.
There's not a time.
No.
just get them in the playoffs, and I think people would look at that as a bonus at this point in Vancouver, in all honesty. Even if they went fairly quiet in the first round, they would look at all of that drama and go, how did we even make it?
Yeah, it would be a success considering injuries and storylines and everything.
Yeah.
Despite it all, that is the team that seems like most
They're gonna have
unlikely to be
kinda
where they
keep
are in the
Quinn
standings.
Hughes together, or with Elmer's glue or something.
The bottom 2 teams in the Western Conference playoff race. Minnesota has a -10 goal differential, and Vancouver has a -18 goal differential. St. Louis Blues are exactly even.
Look out for the Blues.
A lot of red on the Western Conference.
Flames are -1.
All right. It's Monday. That's all I can say. How many games tonight, Sammy?
4 or 5?
4 or 5. 5, Sammy?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 games on tap. Pick yours. And we're back tomorrow to do it all over again and solve nothing. Have a great one.